Hi, I'm Debbie. I wanted to get on here and talk to you guys about holding space for our clients, holding space for grief. And what does that mean? And so I wanted to reference an article, a blog that a woman named Heather Plett did a few years ago. And you can find her blog at Heather Plett, PLETT.com. And she had done this, and then she said it kind of broke the internet. And she was pretty overwhelmed with how it was received. So it's a beautiful article. And I just wanted to highlight the things that she highlights. So again, this is from Heather Plett. The article is called What It Means to Hold Space for Other People and How to Do It Well. And so one of the first things that she talks about is, I'll read it, is that are we willing to walk alongside somebody in their journey, to what we'd say companion them, okay? Without judging, without making them feel inadequate, without trying to fix them. And that's hard for us sometimes as human beings who has jobs as therapists, okay? Without trying to impact the outcome. Okay? And so I want to highlight these 8 things that Heather writes about, which is the first one is give people permission to trust their own intuition and wisdom, which I think is so vital and so important, especially when we're working with somebody who has had a loss that has just made their whole entire world just turn completely upside down. And they usually come in thinking, if they don't say it out loud, I will guarantee you that they're thinking, there's something wrong with me. I must be crazy. Everybody else seems to be okay, but I'm having a hard time. Everybody else seems to be moving on, or the world seems like it's just humming along and it feels like it is standing still for me. So that trusting, helping them trust their wisdom and their intuition, and being able to, I think, provide some education along the way, but really being able to do a lot of normalizing and saying, yeah, well, yes, of course you feel that way. People feel crazy when they're grieving, and because the world doesn't look the same anymore to them. So another one is, give people only as much information as they can handle. This is something I talk about a lot when I am giving out resources, and when I'm sharing resources with you guys during any of my trainings, because I think that you have to really pay attention to the person's ability to be able to take information in. And often when people are grieving, they are oversaturated with an enormous amount of internal combustion, we could say. I'll say an enormous amount of internal stimuli, okay, of reviewing the relationship and all the woulda, coulda, shouldas, and if onlys that come up in their head. So I think we really have to pay attention to give information, but give it in little bits and pieces. I have way too many books. You should see this bookshelf. This bookshelf is nothing but grief and trauma books. I mean, from the top way to the bottom. And so I could hand them a book, but first of all, they're not going to read the whole thing, okay? Because they're going to have a hard time concentrating. They're going to have a hard time paying attention. And so I'm going to give them, and by the way, some of the grief books that the books that really draw me in for grief, for grievers, are ones that have really short chapters, like 2 or 3 pages at a time. That's good, okay? Maybe 4 pages, but I like to pay attention to those books because I think they're more effective. And that way I can actually just give them like a little chapter. And I know I'm probably so not supposed to do that, but sometimes I will just go ahead and copy a 2-page or 3-page chapter for them, and we'll read it during session. I will say, you know what, here, you can go get this book. This is great, but I'll do it a little tiny bit at a time, okay? Number 3 is don't take their power away. You know, we really need to honor their decision now, their decision making. One of the things that grievers have a really hard time with is they have a hard time being able to make decisions that the adrenaline and the cortisol in their system is pumping for long periods of time, not just right after the event happened, but for a lot longer, and they're stressed. And so they're having a really hard time concentrating, paying attention, but they also are doubting their own perception and their own ability to make decisions. Okay? Number 4 is keep your own ego out of it. is you know, we working with people with losses, with grief. I have found that I'm more effective when I sit beside them rather than being the expert, because I'm not the expert on their relationship with the person that's not there anymore, or the myriad of other losses that they have gone through. I'm not the expert on that. Okay. I can listen, and I'm an expert on being able to help them get more clarity and be able to listen to what they need. Okay. But really try to keep your ego out of it. And I didn't say any of these things. Holding space is easy. It's not easy. But you know, keep your own ego out of it. Number 5 is make them feel safe enough to fail. It says when people are learning, growing, or going through grief or transitions, they are bound to make some mistakes along the way. Okay? And for us to not get into judgment or shame. And I know I'm not telling you anything that you guys don't know. It's just a good, I know for me, it's always a good reminder when I read this piece. Number 6 is give guidance and help with your own humility as well as thoughtfulness of what it is that, what guidance that you're giving to them. Okay. And I'll read this from her piece as well. A wise space holder knows when to withhold guidance. In other words, when it makes somebody feel foolish or inadequate, and when to offer it gently. You know, like when a person asks for it or is too lost to know what to ask for. And I think that piece is really important of when they ask for it or they're too lost to know what to ask for. Because when somebody's world has turned completely upside down, inside out, and sideways, is that they come to us for us to be able to give them some guidance, okay? And to be able to have your feet firmly planted so that you can help the griever of questions that can be really helpful to ask them. Okay. As number 7, which is create a container for complex emotions, fear, trauma. Okay. And so that to me is, I think of that as, that holding space is also having a framework that feels solid, that you can, that where you're going, okay, but that the person feels held, that they feel like, okay, you know what, you got the store, okay, you know what you're doing when it comes to grief, which is why I really, really, really advocate a lot for for you getting as much grief training as you can out there. And there's so many different sources to get the grief training. I run grief trainings, but there's a lot of other experts in the field who are also doing grief trainings, and I try to post those for you when I hear them coming up. Allow them, number 8, and last one, is allow them to make different decisions and have a different experience than you would, which of course really speaks to, okay, is this my stuff or your stuff? Okay, that's where all that wonderful countertransference comes in. Is, okay, is this my reaction to what I've gone through, or am I picking up something from the client? And isn't the art in therapy being able to be more clear on the difference? And also the art of therapy is being able to really listen to that and be able to help guide that, your intuition and your skills that you've learned. So I highly recommend this article about holding space. And like I said, I think sometimes we're holding space, but we don't kind of know, we're not real solid in what our framework is. So if you want some more information about framework, I know I'm doing a group starting next month, a 4-week group. I've got a 6-week group too. I'll tell you guys about that later. And I will also highlight in the group, if you go to grief trainings, the subject, I have little topics at the top of the group, is go click on those, okay? Because I try to get all the different trainings that are available. I try to at least tag it with that as well. So thanks for joining me, and take good care of you.